Hey, this is Scott. You might notice some audio issues in this episode. We're sorry. Thanks.
Welcome to You're On in 5, The Art of Understudying.
The only podcast to celebrate the work of actors in understudy roles.
Understudying demands tons of preparation with minimal rehearsal.
Or sometimes none at all.
But it can end in triumphant glory.
In these conversations, we will amplify the diverse voices of actors who have understudied. We want to hear about the actor's technique, experience, and journey.
As well as whatever's on our mind that day. I'm your host, Alana Elise. I'm an actor, a coach, director, producer. You might know me from The Argument, which was my very first show with Interrobang Theater Project back in 2011, maybe.
Nice. And I'm Scott Sava. I am an actor, acting coach, podcast host, creative dude, and teaching artist too. You might know me from leaving Iowa at the Jedlicka Performing Arts Center in February 2009.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Today, we have the best treat because we got two people up in here. Joining us are Nancy Payne and Sarah Gise. I'm going to let Scott tell you why we got two people.
Yes, this is our first of a feature that we will be having called Understudy, Overstudy, where we welcome both the overstudy of a role as well as the understudy to come and chat with us. And we have our friends Nancy and Sarah. Nancy was the understudy for Sarah on the Interrobang show Out of Love. And yeah, this is a new thing that we're trying, and I'm excited to have you guys.
I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank
So,
you.
why don't we get started with Nancy, since she was the understudy in the subject. And Nancy, can you tell us about your first understudy gig?
Yes, it was Out of Love. So,
Oh.
yeah, I know.
No, I didn't know that. Good for you. Holy moly, what a winter understudy. What an experience.
Yeah, it was a year and a half ago now. I mean, I got into acting like officially 3 years ago, but was doing marketing for Interrobang, still do, and talked to Georgette that I was, taking classes and really wanted to experience the process more. So she was like, you should understudy for this show. I think both of us did not anticipate me having to perform, but that's how it went.
Yeah. So, Sarah, since you had the role, can you kind of explain to us why Nancy had to go on for you?
Yeah, you know that whole thing where you're not supposed to say good luck to an actor, you're supposed to say break a leg? Well, I must have been cursed because I literally broke my leg. I broke my kneecap in half. About, yeah, I know. Yeah, you're welcome for the graphic description. But it was about halfway through the run. So we'd performed for 2 weekends, and we had 2 more. And this was right before the Thursday performance. And I went on a run, and then was just about to get ready to go for my call time. And there was a spot in the sidewalk that was jagged, and I tripped on it, and there it went. So that is why Nancy had to go on. It was, yeah, I think that's the only time I've ever missed a performance ever in my whole career. And what a way to go, right?
Right.
So
Thank God you had an understudy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've had so many conversations at Interrobang of like, well, like maybe we don't need them, especially with ensemble members. Like ensemble members aren't going to miss a show. And now the conversation is like, we will always have an understudy.
Totally.
So, yeah.
So Nancy, when you got that call, what happened for you inside your whole self.
Yeah. I am sweating just thinking about it. It was actually the day before my birthday. And
Oh, yeah.
I was like on my way to go to dinner, for that. And then I got this call from Georgette, and I thought she was calling to like wish me happy birthday. I don't know. I'm like one of those birthday people. But and she was like, okay, so, Sarah's hurt. And I was like, oh no, like, can I help? I did not pick up on like, oh, what can I do to help? And she was like, we need to have rehearsal tonight. And I was on the red line, and in retrospect, I wish someone had like filmed me for how dramatic it was. I was like, like just sobbing on the train, and it was one of the only times that I just didn't care who was around me. And I was also like had makeup on. It was like full on I makeup disaster. But I called my boyfriend and was like, I have to go on, and I can't go to dinner, and I have to go on, and I just hung up. Like, didn't give any context. A lot of F-bombs were sent, texted. But once I got to the theater, I like felt better. I think I just felt better being in that space. And I'm so lucky that the whole process was very inclusive of understudies, and I really felt like part of the team. I was really sad about Sarah. I loved watching her perform, and to have that taken away so quickly was just, I honestly had to struggle to like kind of put away the empathy a little bit, because I was worried about her and worried that she couldn't go on. And yeah. So yeah, that moment was very stressful, very dramatic. I think that I got out most of the drama on the red line.
The red line is good for that.
Did you feel like you were prepared to go on?
I didn't, but I did prepare, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't feel prepared, but I treated the whole understudy process. I was like, okay, this is like a class that I'm taking. That's sort of how I was approaching it. And it was also one of those things where it was just like the best experience, and I loved going to rehearsal. And so I went as much as I could and loved the show. And my co-understudy, Ashley, was the best, and we loved the show, so we would like practice together. So I was lucky that was the case, that it was like I was just so obsessed with the show. So that helped a lot. And it was not, I really think I don't even know how many rehearsals I really missed. I think I tried to go to as many as I could. So
yeah, you were there a lot. Both you and Ashley were very much a part of that.
Yeah, we were so obsessed with it. It was like, we were like, this is the best understudy. And I was like, I don't even know other experiences, but I'm guessing it's the best.
Well, that is good. I'm glad for that, because we in Interrobang learned, obviously, that we need to work harder to make sure that understudies feel prepared. Because we had to drop 2 shows to make sure, like, to get you a couple rehearsals in, and so, and then, but like, once you picked it up, it was once we went back into run, it was amazing. Like, you would have never known, anything, that we had to cancel 2 shows or anything. It was just really, really great. Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to try.
I also want to point out that the Laura and Peter, the other 2 cast members, like there's no way I would have been able to do it without them, because it was just like I felt like they like picked me up and held me, you know, and were like, "We got you," and I was like, "Okay, it's fine."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, this podcast is like the Church of Laura Burner Taylor. Like we love her
Oh,
so
good.
much.
good.
Well,
Happy
I
to
was
join this religion.
yeah. I was just listening to the Jolino episode, and we brought her up in that one. And she's just an awesome person to work with.
She is.
Nancy, what was your like acting experience like? How did you get into this?
Yeah, good question. You know, grew up doing plays, did all the community theater, high school, did all the things, musicals, plays, was very into it. Didn't do it in college because I didn't like know that wasn't even an option. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And then got out of college and started doing improv and, you know, just loved performing again. And then just met random people through random performing things that were like, you should, you know, get back into theater. And then I met Georgette and then started doing marketing because I was like, maybe I can, you know, just mix my like day job with my love of theater.
Yeah.
And then the more I just was around it, I was like, I need to do this for real. So then just started taking classes and have just been taking classes ever since and trying to get jobs. And so
that's amazing. It's been kind of a phenomenon on our show a little bit that we have people who didn't follow the conventional route to get to where they are. And I'm always like, because my brain, I went to like a college prep high school, and like everything was about prepping for college. And so to think about how you get into acting without, you know, being a theater major, like that's absurd to my, you know, when I was like 22 years old. But now I realize like, no, everybody can do this. You know, you don't need a degree to empathize with people or you know, express yourself. And
Tell a story.
exactly.
You don't need a degree for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely had to have people tell me that because I was the same way. I was like, well, I can't do that because I work in a job, but it's how I'm going to be forever. And like, you know, it took a while to be like, I can open up and I can work in a job and try to get acting. And then hopefully things will work out the way that they are supposed to. So, but totally. I definitely am still working on that piece.
Sarah.
Yes.
Fancy overstudy lady. What was your first understudy gig?
So my first understudy gig was right out of school. So I went to school for acting out in LA. So when I graduated, I had like connections in the LA theater scene, which does exist, contrary to popular belief. There is a theater scene there. It's different, but so I had one of my professors was like the artistic director of a company, and they offered me this understudy role for a play, a really small space, but it was a good role. It was a fun role for me. I mean, doing it right out of school, I learned so much. Like, you know, I just came out of school, so I was like, oh, I'm in all these classes, and, you know, now I'm going to go be a professional actor. And instead, like, kind of like what Nancy was saying, like, I kind of treated it like a class, you know. I'm watching what the actors are doing. I'm kind of seeing what professional rehearsal rooms are like. And we did have an understudy performance. So that that definitely like lit a fire under my ass, like to learn the script. And you know, it's hard when you first graduate and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? You know, so this was nice to throw myself into and keep up my acting chops and, you know, keep my brain in that kind of space. So that was fun.
Yeah. Did you ever have to go on with the other principals separate from your understudy performance?
I did not. I never had to go on. But I did want to tell you about this experience I had when we were doing understudy rehearsals, right? So, and I felt like I got like a good amount, and I met with the other actors and we did it. But they had this thing at the time where the director of the show actually came to an understudy rehearsal and like watched a run, which I was like, that's a thing? Okay. And I mean, you guys, I took this so seriously. I was like, I'm going to learn it as though I'm playing it. And I learned all my lines, even though like sometimes memorizing, especially right out of school, was like kind of harder for me. But I like learned all my lines and I like practiced all the, any kind of movement. And the other understudies and I run through it in front of the director. And the director was giving us notes after. And one of the people I was working with, the other understudy, loved him to death, but he didn't know any of his lines, right? So in the run, he got so many things wrong, and that I had to then cover for. And this director gave me the notes. Like, you missed this and you didn't do this. Like, not the whole time, but like definitely like calling me out for that. Which it has happened to me as a principal role, where like you're covering for other people not knowing their shit and you're the one who looks like you messed up. So that was just a very interesting experience for me and kind of humbling because I was like, oh, okay. So even if you do come prepared, not everybody's gonna see that or like you, and that's okay. So, yeah.
Sarah, what was the LA theater scene like? Was it like there's movie stars coming to your shows and like was it everything about agents and all that business?
Kind of. Like there's this weird thing that I felt when I was there where theater was appreciated for sure. I mean, there's people that move to LA because they have to work, they have to make their money, but they still love the theater. So you've got all that crowd, and some beautiful stuff is being done. That said, it can also be a stepping stone to film. So there are, agents coming, there's casting directors, there's, all kinds of people. So I'll just, this is the only name drop I'm going to do on this podcast. But so Gates McFadden from Star Trek, she was the teacher that I had that called me, that gave me this role. So she was the artistic director of this company. So she had like Star Trek people that were like coming in and doing stuff. And there was, there were definitely some somewhat famous people but not really famous. They're more just like working actors. So it was intimidating. But Chicago feels like making theater because of, the respect for theater and just to do it and try things and fail and escape and be okay. And I don't know, there's just like a slight difference. But it's all theater.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So both of you, especially since, so Nancy, you have been doing the sketch and improv stuff, but out of love after your school stuff, that was your first play. And then right out of college, Sarah, you understudied. So what do you each feel like you learned during the process of understudying that you definitely can take into, further into your career, or how you started to approach your principal work, Sarah? You know what I mean? Like something that was maybe specific to your understudy experience. And then you both considered them a class, right? So like what you get that you can use.
I would say that skill-wise, definitely like memorizing is, you just have to do it. And that's what everyone said, but I didn't really realize that until this experience where I luckily did memorize for the most part. But I also kind of kicked myself, like, why didn't I memorize even more? Because it just makes it so much easier to be that role and to get into it. And then I would just say it also just kind of affirmed that I wanted to keep doing this. So that was just like being in that space really was solidifying that I needed to keep being around this kind of work and these kind of people. And the more I learned also came from the more I let myself like be myself around the cast and crew and, respect, of course. But I think for the first part of the rehearsals, I was sort of like, I am an understudy, so I should just like not exist, and I got way more out of it when I was like contributing and being part of the conversations about getting to know the characters and that world. So, and I know it's different for every show, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think Interrobang does a really good job about creating that ensemble feel, and not just among the actors, but among the whole team. Like, and I mean, granted, the one show I did with you guys was a solo show, so
Yeah.
like, like it's hard to have any camaraderie among the cast. But I definitely felt like, especially like once we got in the space, that it was like all of our show. And I think that it benefits from having small casts, but I think it's also just the culture of Interrobang, which is great.
Yeah, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, stop it, please.
Love you
Don't
guys.
stop. Yeah. We've definitely worked on that, I think, over the years, and Ilana can probably speak to that too. But yeah, it's hard, to figure out like how to make understudies feel included and set them up for success. That's why I'm so excited that you guys are doing this podcast, because it's just not talked about that
Right.
much, We just do it. You just do the understudy thing. It's almost like a rite of passage. Everybody does it, and we learn from it. But yeah, the talking about it doesn't happen as much.
Right. It was interesting when I told people like in my life who are not in this world, they were like, that's so cool. Like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, here, I'll tell you. But then people that I told, who I did classes with and things like that, it was sort of this, oh, nice. Like, just got to get through it type of attitude. So I found that interesting that, I also skipped some classes, and I remember my teacher being kind of like, you don't need to do that. And I'm like, well, I'm like, I'm part of it though. I want to be part of it. So, I just think it made it so much better that it was made to be a space for that to be the expectation. So, yeah, I completely agree.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and especially with Here Lies Henry and Josh, and what we were able to get him in the room. I mean, he was at every rehearsal, or almost every rehearsal. Yeah, I think it definitely benefited me as an actor to have him there. Just to kind of get another perspective, and especially like the walks home and stuff or the walks to the train, and that stuff was all like super helpful.
It's nice to have a bunch of different really smart people in the room and take the best idea wins kind of thing. Collaboration.
Yeah. Sir, I don't want us to miss the opportunity for you to answer that about stuff you learned understudy and that you took further.
Oh yeah. So to answer that question, I think I wanted to talk about the other understudy role I had. Speaking of Interrobang, this is how I got to be an ensemble member at Interrobang. Is I understudied Owners back in 2014. But the weird thing about that situation is that I was understudying. That was my thing. I was understudying like the role of Lisa, and then like a couple other bit parts. And then the person who was playing those bit parts had to drop out. So the director was like, can you play these parts? Just like the bit roles, but still understudy? And I was like, sure. So I got to understudy while being in the show, which was a bizarre situation. But what was kind of cool, and I was so like wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, just moved to Chicago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just soaking it up, like, and so I would, most performances, I would like watch certain scenes every single night. That Abby Smith was the person I was understudying, who is amazing. She was wonderful. And one of the things I was watching for and that I was curious about was, how do you keep things fresh over a period of time, right? Because in college, we do 4 performances after like months of rehearsal. And so keeping it fresh I think it's always going to be a challenge, right? Like we're always trying to find ways to keep it fresh, but also like not change a bunch of things. And so I think that was something I learned watching Abby and doing this kind of heightened language piece, this Carol Churchill piece where, one of the things that she had to do is she had to sob through an entire scene for like 10 minutes, like, like sobbing. And I was like, how do you, I mean, you can be all actory and methody and like, oh, I've got to get in the zone and I'm going to cry every single time the whole thing, but like Abby, she would do this like hilarious cry, and it would be like part technique and part just authenticity, right? So it really helped me at the time be like, yeah, okay, so you can keep things fresh by using like subtle ways. Make sure to hit your marks, but inject that like newness into it, and if you're feeling a certain energy, kind of just be there with it, be present. And
Yeah, Sarah, I felt that watching you and Laura. I remember Ashley and I when we would watch, different shows, we'd be like, oh, I loved the part when they did this thing different, where like one of you would, and since it had an accent, it always changed if like your inflection changed a little bit from night to night. That moment between the two of you would change, and it was so cool to watch. So I completely agree.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
That gave me goosebumps a little bit.
Nancy, since you had watched Sarah so much, how did you go about kind of making the role your own?
Yeah. Well, I talked to Sarah, and that was really nice. Again, also on the train 2 nights later, from the time I got the call to the day before I had to go on.
I was on a lot of drugs those first few days, so
you were great.
I was like, I'm good, but Nancy, I'm gonna talk to you. Just give me a couple days.
Yeah, so I just asked her some questions I had. What I loved about that conversation is I just like asked her about Lorna, the character, because it felt like we both knew her, but it was like Sarah knew Lorna better than I did, but I still felt like I knew her. So it just helped to get more of Sarah's context. And I think in some of the rehearsals, I was trying to mimic what Sarah did, even just like in the way that certain phrases went, since it was an accent thing. It can get kind of like certain phrases can just land nicely in a certain cadence with an accent, So I remember I would kind of try to like say things the way I had heard Sarah say them. And then it was after maybe one of the shows, and I was texting with Alana. She was like, Lorna's yours now, so like do what you need to do. And I really appreciated it. It was still the same character, but I felt more ownership to be me and also the character, acting.
Right.
But,
whatever that means.
Right. But it was more about just kind of letting myself follow those instincts a little bit more, and knew that didn't mean that I was like dishonoring Sarah's role, if that made sense, because I was very sensitive to that, where I was like, I don't want to totally redo all this work by coming in and doing like a totally different version of this character. But then I also had to be like, well, I also need to be true to myself as an actor too. So
That's awesome. I didn't remember that, but I'm glad I helped.
It's very helpful.
Always full of wisdom. So I had the crazy bizarre experience of actually seeing Nancy's performance on the final night of the show, which, and poor Zoe helped me so much, like prop up my leg and all kinds of stuff. It was nuts. But it was truly like incredible to see, and just it kept giving me chills, because I'm watching this show that I was living and breathing for months, right? And the scene partner, I mean, it's a show about best friends, right? So the show is about the relationship between them. And so and I heard Laura said before, like she had to kind of create that relationship with Nancy, with Lorna, because it was 2 weekends. And what was really cool about watching is, like Nancy said, like we know the character in different ways. We know we have a different relationship, each of us, with that character, and we pull out certain parts of their personality, right? So I got to see all these images that Georgette had very carefully crafted that I was in before, but now it's Nancy there. the other cool thing was seeing, like we said with Laura Burner Taylor, like she's a very good listener, and she's very present with you on stage. And so watching Laura's reaction to Nancy playing this role was also kind of a like mind-blowing, because this is her new best friend, and so she's having different reactions than the ones I saw. But it was really cool, and Nancy did an amazing job, and I don't think that all the, we call them overstudies for these purposes, overstudies always get the chance to see their own understudy in the performance. And I think some people are like, no way, no thank you, never, it'll screw me up. But I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I made a point of like, because I would have been working the night of Josh's understudy for Here Lies Henry, and but I made a point of like, I'm gonna sub, and I'm gonna go see this show, because how often do you get to see the show that you're in? Never, I mean, well, in these two specific cases.
Right.
And unfortunately, we also have the shared experience of making it halfway through the run of a show and then ending things. COVID's a little different from a broken kneecap, but
not really. I mean, I guess the Out of Love kept going on, and Henry did not.
So this is our segment called The Hustle. And we kind of want to, with this show, demystify what it's like to live as an actor. Because, I mean, most of us don't make our full living from acting. And, sometimes our uncles and aunts are like, well, what are you doing for money, though?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing for money?
Did everybody get that weird gut feeling, like the punch in the gut feeling of like, oh, how am I gonna bullshit my way through this? So I have a lot of jobs. Just start by saying that I have. I've worked as like a bartender, a teaching artist. I have my own podcast, although that's not bringing in any money yet. But I, over the years, have done everything in the service industry to like coaching here and there. So I was on unemployment for a while. I had like a temp job before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and it was like, well, all these jobs are not really going to be a thing for a while. So I kind of took it as an opportunity to be like, okay, well, do I want to keep bartending, or maybe this is a sign, maybe I can look for some other stuff. So I'm starting work as an executive functioning coach for one of my friends who started a practice. And executive functioning is controlling our actions, taking it from the brain to actually putting it into actions. Typically people with ADHD that are neurodivergent, like we struggle with those things. And I have ADHD, and they talk about that a lot on my podcast. I'm sure I'll plug that at the end. But it's kind of about creating strategies for yourself. So it's going to take a lot of work for us to do these specific things. So why are we continuing to do things that don't work for us? Let's find strategies that do work. I'm hoping that starts to be my more consistent job, and then I can just have that, and then acting and voiceover. Voiceover has been consistent. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where, I'm in my 30s now, and like in my 20s I was like, I'll have 5,000 jobs and I'll work one this night and then, something the next morning, and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for a while, and then it's exhausting, and you're like, okay, what if we just had one? That could be cool.
Yeah. Cool. So Sarah, you have like kind of the freelance life.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, what's your situation?
Yeah, I work at a marketing company, and I've been really lucky where the people that I work with, a lot of them have other interests and lives, and they take that, work-life balance thing seriously. So my coworkers have been really supportive of my acting, and have come to shows, and an executive came to Out of Love and was like, wow. So I've been really lucky with that for sure. So it has been interesting, like the more that I've been doing acting, the more I'm like, at what point do those worlds really collide? And so far it's been okay. It's, there's definitely busy times with both of them, acting and working full time, but yeah, it's been good. So I'm trying to hold on to that, I think, as long as possible.
Yeah. What skills do overlap between your day job and acting?
Yeah, so I do consumer behavior research and insights. So it's actually, I've found a lot more overlap than I anticipated. I kind of came into this role and started acting around the same time, where I was doing client service, which that was just not for me. It was a lot of phone calls, a lot of late night voicemails, emails. The work they do is amazing. It just was not for me. But so this role is more understanding why people do what they do and then helping creative teams, make marketing assets and advertising for that. So that empathy mindset, my team always is how do you get in the minds of who you're talking to? So it's, in terms of acting, you have to do that for a role. And it's different because it's not numbers or data based. It's more about, the script and the character and that relationship. But yeah, it's worked out where both have helped me be better at the other role, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think acting has made me better at this job because I can kind of step outside of some of the marketingness of it, and be no, these are real people. They're not gonna do these things. So that's been nice.
Cool. Why don't we take a break, and we'll be back with more with Sarah and Nancy. Hey everybody! Alana and I did a show last year, Here Lies Henry by Daniel McIver. I was in it, Alana directed it, it was pretty good. And it is now streaming on BroadwayWorld.com.
In order to get the information for the show, go to interrobangtheater.com and you can see all the information, including the program. But you click on the ticket link, that'll take you to Broadway World and you can get your ticket.
Through February 25th.
And if you buy your ticket on February 25th, you can watch it through March 4th. But you gotta get your ticket.
Yep.
Have fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy the show.
Okay. We are back with Nancy and Sarah. The time has come for us to do... Actually, do you want to introduce this, Alana? No, never mind.
You were on a roll.
Okay, great. All right, good.
There.
I'm glad I stopped that roll immediately. Cool. All right. This next segment... this next segment is called The Breakdown. And our question for this week that we are going to break down is what theater superstitions do you subscribe to?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I feel like I'm extra superstitious about everything. And my way of thinking of it is well, we might as well not. We don't want to take the chance right now, so we might as well just abide by all of these rules,
That's actually exactly how I feel about God.
Might as well. This is getting deep.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god, me too though.
Yeah.
Well, what are there? So Sarah, you're kind of all superstitions are equal.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's if somebody says don't do this thing, don't ever say good luck. I'll be oh no, okay. I won't ask why. I'll just be sure, okay. Don't ever say that. And the Scottish play, you're not gonna find me saying that in a theater. I don't know why. It's I don't really even look into it. I'm just I don't want to be the person that that made that happen. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a superstition, but I like was convinced that I was gonna like burp a lot on stage. And so I was like so weird about what I would eat beforehand. And then one of the runs of Out of Love, I definitely didn't eat enough that day because I was like, I also had to kiss Peter, and I was like, I'm not gonna be like burping in his mouth. This is probably TMI, but I got so lightheaded because I think I just had like almonds that day, that kind of thing. And I remember talking to Georgette being like, I kind of felt like I was gonna faint, and she was like, "What did you eat?" And I was like, "Not enough."
Well, and you don't leave the stage either. It's not like you can go and be like, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. Maybe I'll have some water. It's like you don't that role you didn't get to leave.
Definitely the first scene. I was like, I definitely didn't eat enough today. I feel like so, but so that's not gonna be. That's like I'm gonna eat enough, like I have since then. Also, I started doing like I did yoga before, like just a quick thing before a performance, and it like went well. So then I was like, well, I guess I always have to do yoga before. And so then there have been some scenarios where I've like haven't had time, so I'll just like do like one downward dog and then be like, that was yoga. Like even if it's in the I'm like, okay, I did a downward dog, so that's yoga, so I did it. So it's like my own superstitions, I think. Or I don't even know if they're that, but definitely the good luck one too. I don't mess around with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you'll break your kneecap.
Right.
Because there was somebody that
we
learned
know.
Yeah.
And that was weird because people would say to me like, "Did you break Sarah's leg?" And I'm like, "Don't even say that because I will convince myself that I did somehow." I was like, did I tell her?
Wow.
Did I say good luck? I did that. So
no.
Sarah, are you like just realizing now that it was Nancy who said good luck to you?
No, I did.
Like,
there was a while where I was like, is this like an ex-boyfriend that like, like was like, yeah, good luck, Sarah. Like cursed me. I had a lot of time where I was like on drugs, sitting on a couch. So I went through every scenario. So
Yes.
That's hilarious. I don't subscribe to any that already exist, but I do tend to accidentally create them, much like your yoga pre-show yoga. But I was doing a show, and I had been having a Starbucks chai latte, and I would put a shot of whiskey in it every show, and I would just sip on it through the show, like whenever I went back or whatever. And like everybody, it wasn't like, and nobody thought I had a problem or anything. It was fine.
Yeah.
And then because I don't have a problem, I had my chai one day without the whiskey, and my show was so shit that people were like, "Did you have whiskey in it?" I was like, "No." They were like, "Don't you ever?" I was like, "I know." So like, it was either don't have anything, or if I was gonna have that chai latte, I had to have whiskey in it.
oh my gosh.
People are always finding ways to support my whiskey habit, by the way. Like, it's not entirely my fault, but yeah, that definitely happened for a show. It was bananas, man.
Yeah.
So the rest of that show, I had it.
Probably loosened you up a little bit.
What about you, Scott?
I got into a great habit of brushing my teeth before shows.
That is a good habit.
I've never done that. I mean, well, I've never been in like a kissing show or anything like that anyway. So like, that would be nice. But, that would be nice for me to do to other people. If I'm digging, just digging. All
You're
right.
so kind.
So, yeah, that I do that. I did get into brushing my teeth, and that's almost like a mouth exercise, like a vocal warm up in a way, because it kind of clears your mouth, make you feel really clean.
Really? I brush my teeth before every show because it makes me happy. Like, it feels good. My mouth is fresh. Like, I never thought about anything like it being a warm. I'm just like, I'm gonna do this with a fresh mouth today. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's
I
weird.
have a little kid.
I picked it up from an actor that I worked with many years ago, and I was just like, oh, this makes me smile more. And, like, especially when you're in a role where you have to smile, it's a very good idea to brush your teeth because you just feel it,
Yeah. I'm gonna offer you another thing. If you wash your face and brush your teeth pre-show,
Mm-hmm.
that's fire. It
It's like
doesn't have
starting
to
a
be
new
a
day.
superstition. It is, right? Like
Yeah.
everything is fresh. I mean, if you have to put on makeup, obviously wash your face before you put on the makeup.
Mm.
But like, it's just because it's just like it's invigorating, especially if you have a day job or you did any job beforehand, before you have to do your show. It's totally this like refreshing reset, get you ready to do your thing, feeling good and clean. So maybe
Wow.
try that too. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
People better be writing this down. I mean, this is this is pretty
But
great.
also, I threw that in because I also believe in washing your face like midday if you can,
Right.
like unrelated to performance. Just like you get a chance to wash your face, it is surprisingly refreshing. I'm
wakes
so
you
glad
up.
I discovered it. It does. It feels good,
Yeah.
and I like it better than that little spritz thing people do. Like I want to wash my face, and then it's like, yeah, it's really refreshing. So
Yeah.
I recommend washing it.
Yeah. So it seems like most of our some of our superstitions are actually just good habits.
Right.
You know?
It's
But
true.
it's funny how our
It's
brain
true.
kind of makes it like, okay, but I have to do it because if I don't do it, then that's going to be the reason why I suck.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what our
Or you'll
brain
be
does.
thinking
And it
about
only
that.
takes one
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or like if your hair is different, I don't love that.
Mm.
Like the bobby pin situation is different than it was
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. Or I had to wear a wig for another show I did, and it was like if the wig was different, I was like, nah, it's not
Yeah,
doing it for
especially
me,
if you're in a dance or something and like, you
Yeah.
have to like whip your hair and you have a wig on and it's just like, oh, it doesn't feel totally secure.
and then you're kind of like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. Like, ooh, this is a
I
new
just
move.
danced a little. Did a
Putting
little
your
dance.
putting your hand to your head to
Well, I
hold
just
on.
thought of this too. Like, when we feel like we suck on stage, we had like a bad show and stuff. Do you guys have this thing that where you like go back and you're like, what was it? What was it? Like, was it this? Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should drink water like 30 minutes before that. Was it because I had to pee? And you're like trying to find something to blame. And you're like, it's probably none of that. You probably just had an off night.
It happens.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always it's nice to find a reason, and if there's not, then it's like, well,
Then
what did
I
do
just
that
just
night?
suck.
Yeah. The fault is in me. It's
Yeah.
not in
Yeah.
the stars. Cool. Any other superstitions?
Oh, well, gosh, this might just be a habit too. But I check my fly, but I do not check. I can check it pre hitting the stage, but it's not the same. I still have to check my fly on stage. And I think there's something about doing it slightly, like I like little things like that, like getting away with something is the thing I like in life, right? So like it doesn't matter if I know. I need to check on stage, and part of that task is checking on stage in a way that nobody knows I'm checking my fly, but like I have to do it. Otherwise, I'll be obsessed with wondering if my flight's undone. If I'm wearing pants, obviously. Like I'll really, and then the longer I don't check, the surer I am that it is down. It is.
You're
This
like forcing
crazy.
it down
No.
with your mind, basically.
So like I have to, as soon as I hit the stage, not places, I hit the stage, I have to figure out a way. And once I figure it out the first time, then I know what to do, and then I could just do that every time. But it doesn't matter. I could check it right before stepping on the stage, and as soon as I hit the stage, I'm like, is my fly down? So I have to. So yeah, I almost forgot about that. Yep, I am constantly checking my fly. Every show with pants on.
So you just don't wear pants. You just have to not wear pants. That's clearly the way to go here.
I'm going to talk to some costume designers about that in the future. No pants for me.
The other one I thought of that's not really, this isn't like a theater one necessarily, but the knocking on wood.
Oh, yeah.
I do that every time for anything.
I'm doing it right now because Who knows?
Yeah, because just
said
in
it.
case, just
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
right? Everybody who's listening needs to knock on wood right now. Yeah, but I don't even know. I don't even know why people do that. Or they're like, knock on a virgin's forehead. Are we supposed to know the story behind it? Have y'all never heard that? Maybe that's a Texas thing. That might be a Texas thing.
I'm still making sure
Wow.
I heard what I thought I heard.
You did.
Yeah, I definitely never heard that, Sarah.
Yeah, you
Oh my
heard
goodness.
it, but I don't know if
That's
it works. I can't
hilarious.
confirm.
Well, it doesn't. What hurt will it
I don't know.
do?
And sometimes I'll knock on things that aren't.
I mean,
even
it might hurt the virgin.
Yeah, they might hurt the virgin. That's
Right.
true.
It might hurt
Be
the
careful with the
virgin.
virgins.
It's just a soft knock.
Yeah.
It's time for props. All right, y'all. So in this prop section, it's not about a prop you use on stage. It's about some props you want to give. Shout out to an actor for their understudy work, or if you have a stage manager, shout out, or assistant director. And though either of those, and like, what was the last great show you saw? We tend to say before quarantine, but like, whenever it happened, because now we've seen some shows during quarantine. So what's the
That's true.
last great show? So just shouting out, giving props to people who deserve it for these other, like, not necessarily overstudy roles. Nancy, you go first.
Okay. Props to Ashley Greenwood, who was my co-understudy in Out of Love. Props to Jamie Crepin, I think is how you say her last name. She was our assistant director. She was amazing because we had some understudy shows and she was really helpful and took it seriously. And then another one, Ashley Leistein was the director for the other understudy show I did for Boy Band the musical, and she was amazing and like had me just kind of like doing the understudy stuff with the rest of the cast, and I had to go on kind of a lot, so props to her. And to Beep, our stage manager of Out of Love.
Beep.
Yes.
Yes.
Beep Trefs.
Awesome.
He's
Yeah.
awesome.
So awesome. Nancy, is there something you saw recently, like the
Mhm.
last great show you saw?
Well, I loved The Spin by Interrobang.
Yay.
And the
Yay.
virtual show. And pre-quarantine, I went to Dairy Queen's variety show, which if you guys aren't familiar with Dairy Queen, she's an amazing drag queen. And it was at the Hideout, and there were so many amazing performers, and it was funny and so well done, and just a very fun. I think it was the last show I saw before quarantine, so it was a good one.
Nice. I want to see that. I want to see a show at the Hideout. Oh.
Yeah, it
Remember
was so
theater?
fun. I know.
I know, right? Oh, man.
Sarah.
Yeah. So props. Well, the stage managers that I want to thank, obviously Beep. Beep is so wonderful. But also Sean Galligan. Well, didn't Sean do Here Lies Henry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean is, he's a company member at Interrobang and just really wonderful and supportive. Also, I think it was Rebecca Lawson that was the stage manager for Owners and helped me in my understudy rehearsals and all that, who is now, our board president and who is now
Who also understudied you.
That's
Still.
right.
Rebecca
In Still.
understudied you.
Yes, and
Yes.
understudied Laura, and had to go on for Laura. So we acted with Rebecca. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Rebecca.
Go, Rebecca.
She's
Yes, and now she's the board president.
I know.
Woo!
Big old deal. So yeah, and then Nancy, like we've if you've been listening to this episode, like I have to thank Nancy because what kind of, we were all like grieving this thing that happened that was it sucked, man. That sucked when that all happened. And Nancy just like, it felt like she like didn't even miss a beat. She was like, I'll be there. I'm ready. Let's go in, whatever you need. and kept the show alive. And that was really amazing.
Nice.
So, and then,
Awesome.
yeah. Oh, I should also thank like Abby Smith. I already mentioned her, but she was really fun to watch when I was an understudy. And then shows that I've seen, it's like you ask me that, and I'm like, I've never seen a show before. What are you talking about? Like, what? My brain is like, what? I haven't seen a show in so long. It's not on my mind. So, like, the only thing that really came to mind, and that's the one I was going to talk about anyways, was Here Lies Henry. But I feel like that's a cop out because you guys are right in front of me. But honestly, it was so wonderful, and I have this like huge respect for people who can do solo shows, because it is so. I mean, acting in general is vulnerable, but when you're out there, nobody can save you. It's like, when I did a one-woman show a while back, I kept telling the stage manager, like, if I flub my lines, curtain comes down. Just end it. Don't make me stand there awkwardly. Like, just end it. Put me out of my misery. But it takes a lot of like courage to get out there and talk, to people, but also kind of at people, especially when like in rehearsals when nobody's there and you're just talking to a wall. So
Alana,
I
just talking to Alana the
Yeah.
whole time.
And my facial expression.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure that was delightful.
Tells me everything.
It's true. I would not be able to handle that.
Yeah.
I would either like burst out laughing or be like, "Did you not like that? Is that why you're making
Like,
that
what's
face?"
wrong? Yeah.
That's probably what I did. That's probably what I
What
did.
did I do? What
I
was it?
did really good. I did really good with my face, you guys.
You are. Yeah. So that's what I got.
That's awesome. I gotta say, this isn't really a prop. Well, maybe it's a prop. Yeah. To Sarah, because you were the casting director for Here Lies Henry.
Mhm.
And crazy thing happened because it was the last night of Cabaret that I was doing,
Mhm.
and I was running to catch the bus, and I slipped on a crack in the sidewalk, and just like I felt like I twisted my ankle or something. Like I had blood like on my palms and my face, and like the next day was my audition for Here Lies Henry. And like I had to tell you guys like, hey, I can't come in because like I was afraid that my foot was broken, which it wasn't. It just took a few days to like heal,
Yeah.
But it's so funny that that happened when it did. And I'm so grateful that I still got cast. It was a funny little winding way there, but
Well, that was funny because Josh too. Josh was in Cabaret. Well, Josh didn't break his ankle,
right.
but I'm saying like because I went to see Cabaret, and before that I was like, oh, I need to bring in Josh Kemper. Josh Kemper, I knew like of his work, and then I got to Cabaret, and the whole cast was like, have you met Scott? Have you seen Scott in anything? He needs to go in for this role. So I saw Cabaret and was like, yes, this person's coming in for Henry. This person's coming in for Henry. So I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Woo.
Good times. Well, and that's what a good casting director can do. Like, getting out there, seeing the shows, getting to know people. And...
Yeah, I'm not doing as much of that anymore. I mean, nobody is because there's not shows to watch. but I definitely used to be much better about that.
Yeah.
But Ilana also knows so many people in town, and so we collaborated on that one. Like brought, just pulled people from all over.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's props.
Let's talk about a dream role. What you got? A dream role, or a play. Maybe it's a play you would do any role in. I don't know. What's your dream role or dream production you would like to be?
That, I saw the list of questions before, and I was like, I hope they don't ask me about that. because I feel like I used to have so many dream roles that I just don't think about anymore. I mean, it was Lady M for a while. That was like the ultimate role I wanted to play. What?
No, I was like, Lady M, what is that?
Lady M. Oh, I guess I'm not in a theater. I do live above a theater, so maybe I should be careful, Like,
Sure.
I don't want to ruin the show's all the theater that's going on. But yeah, so but nowadays I also feel like we're, especially with Interrobang moving into doing more new work, I'm reading these plays all the time. And so I get excited by each new character that I read. And I'm like, I want to play that, but I also want to play that. And that would bring out that would present a different challenge. So I feel like dream roles used to be such an easy thing for me to answer. And nowadays it's like, I want to play them all. Yeah. Yeah. Everything.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Nancy, you got any?
Yeah, when I felt similarly. I was like, oh, there's so many things I'd love to play. But the one thing that came to mind automatically was Pen 15, if you guys have seen that show.
Yes.
If there was, which, I mean, I guess kind of has Out of Love vibes because it's like adults playing kids, essentially, like, acting as kids. But I would love to be in a role that, like, channeled the craziness of me as a 12-year-old and like whatever that so if you guys, the show is about 2 7th graders, but they're played by 2 women actors, and it's just so funny and real and like weird. So
and the kids are real kids, like
yes,
the kids
so,
are that age, but
yes.
like it's 2 adults playing those 2 characters.
And it's also set in like 2001 or something like that.
Right.
Which
that
for
time.
me is like that's exactly where I was, or I was
Same.
probably a few years older, but still, the
Yeah.
references
A lot of
are
nostalgia.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So just any role where I could be like extremely weird would be really fun. That's kind of the vibe that I would love to do.
I got you.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I don't have a
I don't know
specific
that
one.
play. I'm gonna find out about it.
It's
It's a show.
All right.
It's a TV.
Yeah,
it's a TV show.
It's a TV show. See, I tell you how much I know about anything.
It probably should be a play.
That's I was like, they should make a play.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll be in the play.
Yeah. So write the play, right,
Yeah.
and then you'll
Okay,
star in
cool.
it. It's
Play.
perfect. Thank you, Alana, for the
Yes,
wonderful
thank
idea.
you.
I always like to help. All right. So what you got going on? What you want to plug? Now's the time.
I have a podcast that I started in June 2020. It's called the ADHD Artist Podcast, and it explores the lives of artists with ADHD and what that's like and how that diagnosis kind of intertwines with creativity and being an artist and what it's like to be a freelancer and have to navigate meds and all that kind of stuff. So it's really fun. And there's a couple Interrobang people on there, or just beloved Chicago theater people. So you can check that out. It's you can just basically go to Apple Podcasts and type in the ADHD Artist Podcast.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I love your podcast. It's very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, and it's artists of all disciplines. So it's not just theater people. It's all sorts of different kinds. And personally, like, I've struggled with depression in my life and probably anxiety too. Listening to other people with similar challenges was just really it's powerful because these are things that people didn't even talk about 10, 20 years ago, and now we have very open dialogues about it. So even though I don't fully have the ADHD connection there, I still get a lot out of it personally.
Yeah, that's the thing too about ADHD. It's a spectrum, right? So like you may not qualify for an ADHD diagnosis, but that doesn't mean some of the tips and tricks that work for people with ADHD won't work for you, especially artists.
Totally.
I had someone on the podcast that said, as artists, we all got something, right? And who knows if it's the chicken or the egg, right? It's like, do people go into the arts because they got something mental health related, or does the arts create that? Who knows? But I think it's really important that we all talk about it, right? Because shame only needs two things to grow, and that's secrecy and silence. So that's Brene Brown. But I didn't come up with that. I just want to make sure
I love that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm so brilliant. I should write a book. Yeah, no, that's Brene Brown for sure. But it just means like we should talk about it, right? We should be there for each other. So yeah, I have a new episode coming out with Brandon Tessers, actually, who runs Effective Artistry and is a playwright that works with Interrobang and a good friend of the company. So that'll probably be out by the time you release this, and then I've got some more that I'll be releasing over the next couple months. So check it out.
Awesome. It's a lot of work to put together a podcast in the first place. And so I salute you. And at least it gave us something to do during the pandemic.
It did.
Because, we kind of pretty much have to move our whatever we were doing creatively in theater and like find new outlets and
explore other interests. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
So
anything else to plug, Sarah?
No, that's all I got for now. I mean, other than Interrobang stuff, which I'm sure you guys, are plugging. Sure. Ilana is probably plugging. We got all kinds of cool stuff coming up with that.
The only things I was going to plug is that I haven't been creating it, but I've been taking classes, and I've loved Vagabond. School of the Arts has done a really good job of doing virtual learning, and when it's safe, like COVID safe class experiences. So they're not endorsing me, or I'm not a brand ambassador, but I will say that's been a really good use of time. And then Here Lies Henry is available to stream February 5th through the end of February.
February 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, on Broadway World, but on our website.
Nice.
InterrobangTheaterProject.com.
And if you need any reminder, Here Lies Henry is the play that we talk about all the time, that I was in and that Alana directed.
Well, that's how y'all met, right? Isn't that how you two met?
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
What a serendipitous meeting it was. Alana's giving me that face.
No, I'm not. It was totally serendipitous. I was not giving you a face. I promise. Okay. It was not.
That's cool. All right. So yeah, we got Here Lies Henry coming out. So what about just like in your guys' like life? Like what's new that doesn't have to do with acting or theater or art or whatever?
I got a kitten. Yeah. I mean, I have a cat who's 5 years old. He's very loud. You can follow him on Instagram. Han Solo yells at you.
I love him.
But he was, he was very angry because he was all alone all the time. So we got him a kitten, and then he hated the kitten and wouldn't interact with the kitten. But the kitten's obsessed with him.
Sure.
So it's been pretty great because this winter, I mean, winter plus pandemic equals me like not leaving my place, even like to go on a walk. I'm just like, how long can I stay in the apartment without dying? So, my cats and hanging out with my boyfriend Joe and has just been really nice.
Nice.
I've been a lot of like rearranging of spaces, and I used to do that a lot when I was little. Like I would just like move my bed to another part of my room, and my room was small. So my parents were like, how many ways can you really rearrange it? But yeah, I did that with my apartment, and then my boyfriend's apartment too. Yeah, and got a new couch, hand-me-down couch. So that's been really nice. Been really into coffee, like in a barista-like way. Kind of trying to experiment with different methods of brewing, the flavors of the beans. Nice. Yeah, I'm a whole new coffee drinker these days. So I'd say those are the big ones. Gotten into baths. Never into baths. Nice. Probably because I never felt like my bathtub was like clean enough, but I've cleaned it enough. where I've taken some baths, and that's been really fun. Baths? Baths?
Baths.
Yeah, baths.
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 Baths?
Yeah.
Baths.
Okay, that's all.
Baths are great.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love baths.
Alana, what about you? What's new with you?
Oh man, so I've been in Michigan for like almost 2 weeks. And I stayed in a place that had like suites with a kitchen. And I brought food, but then I found a place that like a seafood boil place, like literally around the corner. So now at this point, I've had delicious seafood twice, including tonight. I brought food and grocery shopped and stuff, so shame on me. But just try to keep happy in 2021 and crab legs do it for me. So
Whatever works.
Hell yeah.
That's what's been up with me this recently.
Nice.
What about you, Scott?
I celebrated my 36th birthday last week.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, that's
Thanks,
right,
yeah.
because that's when the podcast came out, right?
Yeah. So that's why, we released it on that date. And I did a Facebook Live event, I guess. I don't know. It was just me in my living room. And I ended up recording for like 90 minutes. And I sang some songs. I lip synced some songs. I just interacted with the people who were commenting. And got drunk, of course. I had a great time. I know by the end there were only 2 people watching, and that was my dad and his girlfriend. But you know what? I'll take it. They're great audience members. So, it was a pretty good birthday, all things considered. Because I had my pod friend Steph come over. And my roommate, and we had some drinks and played some games and had a good time. So, best you can hope for in the pandemic.
Indeed.
Yeah. Quality time.
Yeah.
Are you Capricorn? Is that Capricorn?
I am a Capricorn,
I love
yes.
it. I love Capricorns.
Very good people are Capricorns.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard workers. So,
It's true.
fit the bill.
Ilana is like, what are we doing?
That's the face. That was the face. Oh boy. Cool. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks so much for having
This
us.
was so fun.
It was.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad we did
Yeah,
it.
so
Glad you were
fun.
here.
I know.
Yeah, especially, because we heard so much about Nancy in our first few interviews, and it was just
Aw.
like, oh, we gotta have her on the show.
Yes.
So
Yeah, this is a cool idea. I like the understudy overstudy because it really lets people into the process itself. Like seeing a role from both sides and the process experience.
And it's a very interesting relationship, and sometimes can be tenuous, but in this case, it seemed like not at all. And I think that's kind of an Interrobang thing. But yeah, okay, cool. So, did we just say goodbye to them? Is that it?
Yes. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so
I
much.
love you both.
Bye.
Let's talk
Hugs
soon.
to you all.
Mwah.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Nancy Payne and Sarah Gise, and that it gives deeper insight into the art of understudying.
If you'd like to ask a question or give suggestions, you can send an email to understudypodcast@gmail.com.
Or find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Or head to our website at understudypodcast.weebly.com for more info.
And if you want to support the show, you can head over to our Patreon and donate a couple bucks.
Also, if you know someone we should interview, let us know.
Our theme song and all other music is by Laura McKenzie.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice and tell your friends
And if you hated it, tell your enemies.
and their parents.
And their stupid parents.
Bye.
Dun-dun-dun.